I'm Shequeta Smith. I started my company with comics. So it was Shero Comics. I started my company in 2016. My very first Comic Con, someone came up to my table and thought that my character would make a good VR game. That kind of put the gaming thing in my head. Like, okay, eventually we're going to turn some of these books into games. So that was 8 years ago, maybe like 2021. I started moving towards the gaming industry. I won my first grant from JP Morgan Chase through Digital Undivided to help me do a prototype for my game. We finished that in 2022. Since then, we've just been trying to raise money to finish the game and to work on a Roblox game. My company, Shero Games, focuses on mobile Roblox and PC games that feature women and girls of color as the main protagonists.
Interesting way to get to gaming. Did you ever play games before that?
Well, I've been a gamer since I was like 4. Like, I remember playing Pong with my uncles. So, I mean, the Nintendo years, the Sega years, I mean, there's never been a time in life where I haven't had Mortal Kombat in my house. Some form of it, whether it's PlayStation 1 or now I have PlayStation 4. So I've always played games. I have a Nintendo Wii and I have a PlayStation 4 on my consoles. But yeah, with the invent of cell phones, I mean, even on a green phone, we're playing Tetris.
You got the whole comic book thing, so obviously you like art, I'm sure anime and different things. Yeah. Like, what type of things were you into, like, on that side that pushed you even further to get to the gaming side?
I've been in the comics since I was a kid as well. We didn't have a comic book shop where I grew up. All we had was I would go to the grocery store and buy Archie Veronica comics. So that was my whole experience with comics. Other than the movies, like I was into Wonder Woman ever since I was 4. That was like, she was my Shero. So yeah, the comic thing, I started it right after college. I started working on a couple of comic strips. Nothing ever went anywhere with it. I moved to California to write movies. And so I didn't think I could do both. So I kind of put the comic book stuff down. It was maybe 2009 when I saw Iron Man at the theater. I was like, okay, I think I could do both comics and films like Marvel is doing. And so that's when that kind of idea came in my head. So I was all excited. I went to a comic book shop. I was like, all right, so where are the black women at? Comic shop owner was just like, they know everything at the comic shop. So all he gave me was like Heroes for Hire because Misty Knight was a part of them. He gave me Black Panther because I mean Storm was in some of those books, and I'm just like, okay, well, Storm, Misty Knight, like who's like got a book on their own? Like who's on the cover? And so he really couldn't produce anything for me. So I was just like, you know what? I have this story about this girl named Rayven Choi. It's a Black girl whose parents are killed, and she grows up in Korea. Like, I think this could be a graphic novel. I always had it as a movie, and I always got meetings in Hollywood from it, but Hollywood wasn't ready, and I don't know if they are ready to this day to have a Black female lead in an action film. I was just like, let me turn it into a graphic novel. And so I procrastinated for about 6 years because I wanted to do some movies first. And then in 2014, start working on it in secret. 2016, released the first 2 books, and then it's just been like a whirlwind ever since. We just did a prequel of her as a manga series called Younger Master Choi. So it's her as a little kid growing up in Korea. It's like a Karate Kid type of story. So the different types of comics that I've been into is just like mostly the ones that feature women and the ones that feature Black people mostly. I love Sailor Moon. I love some of the Japanese manga and anime.
So how does that process work, given to have that background in movies and comics and now games? Is it all sort of similar, how you approach your ideas and stuff? How does that mesh together?
I think it all goes together. I think when you see, so like The Last of Us, like that was easy to transition to a TV series because it was a game, but it was so cinematic as a game that it wasn't really a big jump. So it's kind of like the same thing, like the movies that we make aren't necessarily all that different from games and the way games are going. I mean, the way they've evolved, because it used to be, of course, like, Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, you're just fighting like one person. But now the games have gone into like worlds where you have these big metaverses and you're walking around fighting and you have a whole story behind you. So once the storytelling kind of entered gaming, that's where it kind of connected with films. And then, of course, comics is another form of storytelling. So it's like one of the reasons why I love doing comics and graphic novels is because I can afford that. I can't always afford to go shoot a movie, but I can afford to put it into an IP, into a comic book, and I can show you guys exactly what's in my head with this story through this comic book. And so for me, all 3 of the genres kind of mix together. And so I love doing all 3.
How is it now compared to when you were looking for comic books and looking for those characters? Is it better now?
What I'll say is when I started my company in 2016, Marvel hadn't hired a Black woman to write a comic book for them. So this is like 8 years ago. So it's like it's still an uphill battle. Like I went to GDC like and there was like black people there. And it was just like a lot of them. And I'm just like, oh wow, like and there were women. I'm just like, oh wow, like when I came into comics, it was just like I'll be at the Comic Cons and there'll be me. And then there may be like a couple of white women and maybe a couple of Asian women, but I would never see black women at the Comic Cons until like maybe like now, like there's more of us, but still not very many. So it's still kind of I thought gaming was more of a male dominated industry than comics was. So after leaving GDC, it was like, I've been so wrong. Like I thought coming into gaming, it was going to be just like comics where I was going to be so alone and feel like I'm in this by myself in a lot of ways as being the only black woman. But no, in games, it was just like, oh wow, like I made friends. It was just like so dope. So it was like, um, so comics has improved some, but we still don't have a Marvel movie, set with a black woman as a standalone. Like we had Shuri that stepped in for Black Panther, of course, but there's still not a book series, a thoughtful book series, graphic novel series, other than what I've done that really has a black woman just kind of kicking butt. Other than when you go back into like the 70s, like right now we're doing a documentary. So I just want to grant to finish my documentary. It's called the Shero Universe. So it's about the history of black women in comics. And so if you go back to the 70s, Friday Foster was based on a comic strip. So Pam Grier was pretty much one of the first black women in her own comic book movie, when you think about it, because that was a film that she started in blaxploitation that was based on a comic. So it's like, we're going to talk about all of that. But since then, it's just like, there's not been another film where it's a black woman that starred in a book that ends up on the screen in like an action type of film or like an Iron Man or a standalone character. I mean, they didn't even give Black Widow her own movie during the pandemic. That was kind of a disaster. Getting better because hopefully more women are coming into it. Hopefully I'm inspiring more women by the things that I do and the books that I've done. I'm going into schools talking to young girls, trying to get them to be interested in comics and to use their to be able to see that this is a possibility for them. Because a lot of girls don't get into it because, who knows why, but it's just not presented to them, or there's not enough characters for them to kind of get into. So that's where I kind of come in and try to create as many characters as possible to kind of let them know this is feasible.
You mentioned GDC. Talk about events like that in Comic-Con. How important are those to networking? Like you said, meet those people who I guess you would have never known were in the industry or were doing kind of the same lane type of stuff that you were doing that looked like you.
Comic-Cons, I've been all over the world with that. So it's like I've been able to see that really big Comic-Cons, kind of looking around like, okay, who's here? Or a lot of times it'll be like, when I was in Korea, it was like, who's this black girl that's here? So they were coming up to my table like, okay, who is this girl? But I actually got help from that. The Comic-Con that was there is the same Comic-Con that runs New York Comic-Cons. I was able to kind of use that, them being interested in me to get into other Comic-Cons around the world. GDC was just like, it was mind-blowing in a lot of ways. Like I changed my schedule to get there because I didn't know that there was going to be Big Fest. I was coming in on Tuesday, like afternoon or something. I changed my whole plane ticket so I can get there. I'm missing the Black Day. There's gonna be Black people there, and I was so excited to go, and it lived up to everything I expected it to be. It was so fun. It was so amazing to talk to those people. I felt like in comics, I call us the nerds, like we're comic book nerds. We're always doing geeky stuff or writing, geeky stuff. But GDC, those were the geeks. Those were like the pocket protector. Those are my people. That's my tribe. Like, so it was amazing to kind of meet people. Like in comics, we don't really have that type of moment or that kind of environment where we have an organization that kind of brings us together. GDC was just like, it was great for the soul. It was great to meet everybody. I'm still like setting up meetings and meeting with people that I met at GDC. So it was an amazing experience. And it was like a welcome for me into the gaming industry. Like I've been to other conventions, but nothing was like that, where it was like a dedicated day for us to kind of just get to know each other and to hear from each other.
Talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you got going currently. You obviously can talk about. What are you working on now?
Spectrum had this grant program where they wanted to help small businesses. And so I applied to it and they picked my company. So I guess they like my company. And so we have a 30-second spot where I'm talking about what I do with comics, films, and games. It's going to be airing on BET, Nickelodeon, Country Music Station, Univision, a lot of different places. So I'm very excited about that, to get people, coming to my website, to get people interested in what I'm doing, hopefully, and to reach a whole different demographic, because it's going to be from like Malibu all the way to Victorville, California. Pretty dope for me to kind of be on the screen talking to these people in their homes. Other than that, I still like I said, working on my game, trying to get that together. Trying to meet people at Roblox has been very difficult. I have questions like, we want to build a Roblox game. I have it's based on my comic convention, Shero and so just been trying to reach out to someone there to kind of find out more information, but that's been kind of difficult. I didn't get a chance to meet them at GDC either, but still kind of working towards that. The mobile game that we have a prototype for, Rayven Reaper's Run, which is based on my graphic novel. Still getting money to finish that. So right now it's because there's been so many layoffs, it's there's an abundance of developers to choose from. So it's okay, who's going to be right for this? Who's going to be right to build? It's an endless runner, kind of like Subway Surfers, but it takes place in ancient Korea. So it's okay, who am I going to find to build this? So before it was there was maybe a couple of places I can go to, but now it's just everybody. So trying to narrow it down to figure out who's going to finish building the game. Right now we just have a playable prototype that you can play on mobile and PC. And so just trying to finish that game. So right now I'm kind of putting things together and in place to kind of start interviewing people to help us finish it. Hopefully we can get it done by the end of the year and get it out there. I'm that's after GDC, it was shipping a game. You get mad respect for that, and then you're out there, you're officially a gaming company. So I feel once I get that done, then I'll be a gaming company. My company's comics, films, and games. So I'm working on Younger Master Choi Chapter 2, which is, like I said, the young karate kid. So we did the first book last year, working on the second book, probably starting the next 2 weeks. We're going to start working on that and drawing that. Then a film, as far as films go, the film that I did 2 years ago that played in festivals up until October of last year, it's playing on some streamers right now. It's called Dick Control. And it's I'm going to probably re-release it back to YouTube, because we originally tried to release it on YouTube, and then I had to take it off because of festivals. But now I'm going to put it back out there in the wild. I'm sure it's going to start some conversations, because it's about misogyny and hip hop. So we're going to put that, re-release that. And then I'm working on a shark movie. I'm a nerd, so I'm really into sharks. I'm obsessed with them. And so I have a shark film. It's like a 15-minute short that I have some people that want to work with me on and want to produce it. So we're trying to get that rolling.
Where have your ideas come from? Inspirations and things like that for all of these projects come from?
Well, Rayven Choi came from a study abroad trip that I went to Korea. I did in Korea back in 2000, so 24 years ago. I thought I was going on a study abroad trip, but it was actually with a religious cult. And I didn't know that until we got there. That's a whole different movie, what happened in Korea. But when I came back from Korea, the story of Rayven Choi was playing in my head, because the people in Korea were so nice to me. They were just oh, you're so small, you're so beautiful. And so it was just I was just oh, wow, what if I lived here? What would that be like? And so the story was playing in my head when I came back. So I feel some people say when you go places, maybe you go to Africa or somewhere, you come back with a new set of eyes because you've seen different things. And so me going there was seeing a different culture. And I was just I came back, and in my head was bridge the gap. And so that story was playing in my head. And so I wrote it 20 years ago. And then now it's a graphic novel series. We have a short film for it. And we're have a TV pilot that may get picked up pretty soon. So my ideas come from all kinds of places. Sometimes in the shower, sometimes when I'm driving, I'm stuck on the 405. Sometimes I'm talking to somebody and they may say something and I hear it wrong, but then it becomes an idea for me. Sometimes it's watching other people's films, or the shark movie came. I had an idea for a shark movie for a while, but I watch anything with sharks. I watch Sharknado. I watch the bad ones. And so I was getting ready to sit down and watch some movie that was on Netflix. I forgot, it's called something Deep or something like that. And I was just why are you doing this to yourself? You know it's going to be a bad movie. Why are you about to watch this shark movie again? Yeah. So go write your own movie. So the next weekend, that's when I wrote my shark movie, because I'm just I'm tired of watching bad ones, so I need to write a good one. So they come from all kinds of places.
How has technology and how people are visually seeing things, kind of how people are putting stuff together, just different things like that, how has that affected how you go about, or has it affected how you go about what you do?
I'm still learning about AI. It's you know what it is, you kind of know it's there, but there's still some intricacies of things that I want to learn about it so I can be more knowledgeable of it, especially when it comes to the gaming world, because that seems to be where everything's moving towards. It's how are you incorporating AI into your game? So I have some classes that Google is putting forth that I'm going to take. And so I'm just trying to learn as much as I can so I can be the expert on it. But as far as technology and how it's helped my business, my artist, I've never met him in person. He's in Indonesia. My colorist is in Mexico, so it's just like my whole crew is like all over the place.
All remote,
So it's
yeah.
like that's helped me kind of bring my books together by hiring people that were the best at what they do, no matter where they are. Like it used to be where you had to be in person, but now it's just like technology kind of helps that. I come from the era of I used to be a rep for Def Jam when I was in college. So I would be the person that'd be handing out tapes, mixtapes or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was like all we had. But now, you can put that online, you can put that on
Yeah.
TikTok or whatever, and it can go viral. So it's like
Yeah.
the internet makes it to where, like, for me, my business is like my hope or whatever, my dream is for young Grandmaster Choi to end up going viral at some point so we can sell way more books and start doing the licensing deals with the merchandise. So there's a lot more chances now for your work to get out there, especially on the international level than it was before.
How has that been as far as working with a lot of people remotely and things like that?
Yeah.
Like, is it smoother? These people obviously are really good at what they do, and they kind of focusing and harnessing whatever it is that they're good at. That here you go,
I'm thankful for it because it's like when it comes to the game side of things, I've already navigated that path. So I know how to kind of talk to people and to tell people exactly what I want. So it's like if you can communicate really clearly, then most people get it. If you can, I'm a salesman. I come from a sales background. So before I was doing this, I used to sell Coke for Coca-Cola. I used to sell all kinds of stuff, phones for Nokia. So it's like I'm able to kind of sell what we're doing to my workers, the people that work for me or whatever. Just like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it, and they're excited. Like I think my colorist just did something for me. She edited one of my pictures or something, and so I was like, oh yeah, we're about to start working on Young Grandmaster Choi in the next few weeks. And like her response was just like, I love working on this project. Like they love, and you could tell it like when you read that book, like you could feel the love for what we were doing coming through. It was just like such a heartfelt story, such a like innocent little story about these two little girls. And so yeah, I feel like it helps you be able to like communicate with people better and to kind of I mean it's just like a skill. You want to have that skill to be able to talk to people and get them on your side and get them on board. It's hard because it's like you do want to be able to touch people and see them in person. And so like the artist that started with me on the first two Rayven Choi books, he's in Indonesia as well. So when I actually made sure when I went on my tour, I went like a book tour around the world. I made sure I stopped in Indonesia for a Comic-Con there because I wanted to make sure we met each other. We've been working together for like 7 or 8 years, and I never met. We worked on T-shirts. We started out with T-shirts, and then we went to comic books. And so I made sure when I was in Jakarta, he came. We signed books together. We got a chance to spend some time at my table, my booth, and so it was dope to kind of meet him in person. I've been talking to Dennis for years and going back and forth on things. So it's like it's awesome when you can meet them in person after spending so much time together. But it does take out that, like I say, like going to GDC and meeting them in person. Like I'm not seeing the people. I've talked to people on LinkedIn. I've kind of seen some people before, and maybe met them last year at something else. But it's like to meet in person is just like an energy, man. It's just like something that's necessary. So especially with us, because
what's the time process? How long is it like a long process? Is it more like you crank out drawings as you kind of see fit because you already kind of got the idea? Like how does that work out?
Well, that's fun because I don't draw. I draw very bad stick figures, and my artist like it looks in the books. So that's why I say like my artist when I went to Jakarta, I made sure I saw him, met him or whatever because he's drawn so many books for me. It becomes a different challenge because you have to make sure you don't want them drawing stuff over and over again. So you have to be clear in what exactly it is that you want. So for me, that means I go find reference pictures or do storyboarding. I have to explain, okay, this is what's happening in this panel. Because it's like a scene in a movie. It's like every panel you have to decorate, you have to figure out how their hair looks and what they're wearing and all that. So it's like for me, I have to be very detailed and it's very tedious. So it's not easy, but the result is just like it comes and it's just like, oh man, this is so dope. But then you give them the book and people read it. It's like, when's the next one? It's just like you don't understand how much it took to get this book together. So this next book that we're working on, it will probably take us maybe 3 months to go from me writing it to drawing to coloring to doing the lettering and editing and all that. So it's probably going to take about 3 months. As far as a graphic novel, that's a whole different ballgame.
Talked about how comic books are kind of making a resurgence. How have you seen that starting to boost your work, or you're starting to look at things a little bit differently as far as, kids? I mean, you're starting to see the old bookstores start to pop up again. Has that changed, I guess, giving you even more confidence to kind of keep going and do what you do? I'm imagining as that keeps booming, those kids are going to get older and hopefully their kids bringing it down to their kids and things like that. Hopefully by that time, people like yourself have put out however many issues of these different collective entities that maybe people never had a chance to see when they were kids. Right. How has that boost kind of worked in your favor?
The beauty in comics is that comics never get old. Like, you have kids now that are reading Teen Titans from like the 70s or whatever. So it's like, that's the beauty in it. And its beauty is that the kids grow into it. So like some of the parents are buying Rayven Choi, which is a 13 plus book for their young kids because their kids are going to grow into it. So they already have the book when they turn 13, they can read it. It's been great. What's the difference is I started out with Rayven Choi. It's a 13 plus kind of adult book. So you're selling those to people at Comic Cons or whatever. So I hadn't been in the kids space just yet. During the pandemic is when I wrote a cheerleading book. And so that was still kind of like, I wasn't able to go to Comic Cons and kind of release it like we usually do. So it was still kind of like, okay, I have a kid's book, but I really can't move with it yet. And so then we did Younger Master Choi last year. And that's just a whole different market. So for so long, my audience has been adults. So it's like, but the kids, from what I understand with the librarians, because I met librarians last year, when their libraries over the summer were just like completely like gone with graphic novels and comics. The kids are like reading them like voraciously. So the kids graphic novels, the kids comics are blowing up right now. So it's like I'm not here at the right time. Yeah. So the thing is like I need to have all like 4 books to make it into a graphic novel before I can put it in libraries and stuff like that. But it's still a great market to be in right now because kids are really into comics and it helps them read, especially boys. From what I understand, like the studies have shown that a lot of times young boys, they find it hard to read prose and really like get the graphics of what's happening in the story. But when they read comics, the pictures are there. So it's like they retain the information and then it helps them learn how to read faster as well. So I feel like I'm in the right place, in the right space with this series. I've been in the schools talking to kids, doing comic book workshops, what teachers have been loving. And I love it too. I used to be a school teacher. So it's like going back in for a day is great. It's great to talk to them and to like, they're so smart. I have them write a page with me. So that's been really cool. And so, yeah, I'm excited to kind of be in the space right now where the kids are looking for new books, because that's the thing with the old books. Like I say, like they could read Teen Titans from the 70s, but the books were so like, back to back to back that where are you going to get to the front? And they were going for so many years. It's like, how do you enter into a book series or a comic book series that's been going on forever? You're going to miss a lot of things. Right. So my books or whatever kind of give them an entry point to start from the beginning and to kind of go along as we release more books in real time.
I want to know how we can find you, all of the stuff that's kind of available, for people to consume right now.
The easiest way to find all my companies is to go to Shequeta.com. So it's my first name, Shequeta.com. It has my company, it has links to Shero Games, Shero Comics, to Shero Con, which is my comic convention, and to Rayven Choi Films, which is my film company. So that's the easiest way. Otherwise, on social media, I'm at Shero Comics. I'm at Shero Games. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. On TikTok, I'm Shero Comics. On Shero Comics on TikTok as well. And yeah, you can follow me on there, please. Like I'm always posting about things and trying to post interesting things for you guys, post interesting content if I can. So definitely come there, check me out.